Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the clouds persist, the rain continues, but there's work to be done. So it's May 1st, and as I said, the clouds are around, the rain is off and on. We got a project going in the back there. If you notice, those garden beds look a little bit different. We'll give you a little highlight later on in the show. Today is my day to get maybe one thing done for sure. I think it'll be the easy part today. And the second part is going to maybe take a little bit more sit down and pay attention, take my time. We'll get to that a little bit later. But the first thing we're going to do is to fertilize. So it is May 1st, and we've had an incredibly cloudy, windy, rainy, snowy, cold. Spring has been pretty awful by most people's standards. So I haven't fertilized yet. And things are just coming out of the cold frame in the shade, getting ready for sun. Maybe the end of this week, maybe next weekend, we'll put them in some more sun. And so I thought with the rain lightly falling, it'd be a good time to put some fertilizer pellets on and get that rain to slowly soak some of that in. So the next couple days when the sun peaks out again and we get close to 60 degrees, maybe these trees will be ready to soak up all those nutrients. So I got my pellets this time around from a suggestion from Bjorn Bjorholm with Isoline Bonsai. Check out his fertilizer episode from a year ago or so. So Bjorn's episode on fertilizer really made me decide to try something new this year. Now I've used Dr. Good Earth fertilizer a lot. I've used some Miracle Grow in the past, but this time I'm going to use what Bjorn recommends. So we'll show you that in a second. Just remember, when you're looking for a fertilizer, I stick with organic as much as possible, and we're looking for those 10-10-10 NPK symbols on the bag. So we want to make sure we have nitrogen that's up there about 10. Now, and maybe even more. Depends upon your tree, depends upon if it's in development or if it's in refinement and the age of the tree and all those categories, right? All the trees you see in my benches are all in developmental stage. I do not have a tree in quote-unquote refinement. So I pretty much am just going to fertilize most of my trees pretty heavy because I'm not worried about the extended growth. I'm not worried about too much of that. There's a lot of nuances in your fertilizer. So when you check out some of the other fertilizer streams with either Ryan Neal or Bjorn, there's some really good stuff out there. And all of my trees, as I mentioned, are pretty simple. Caking them up. I'm going to give some of them a little bit more than others that I want to really push out some growth this year. So if you want growth, you want the big thick growth of the year, give it lots of fertilizer. Now remember, if it's kind of a salt-based fertilizer, you can over-fertilize, and that salt will actually make the trees not absorb as much water. So I made the mistake last year of having a non-organic fertilizer that was heavily more in the salt base, and that destroyed some of my trees. So that was a tough loss. Lesson learned, we're forging ahead. So the stuff I have today is some great organic stuff recommended by Bjorn. Let's grab the box. Yeah, there it is. Grow Power. So this is recommended by Bjorn again, and I'm going solely on his recommendation. Now he's down in the Tennessee area, and he recommended the Grow Power fertilizer. And so I ordered this big old box that I have not even opened yet. So let's get in there and show you these pellets. So these will not require any tea bags, so no tea bagging this year for me, at least until this Grow Power is gone. And here we go. Looks like Necco wafers, only thicker and all gray, so not a very good flavor. So here we go. We have Grow Power, and we have 12-8-8. So I've got heavy on the nitrogen this year, 12-8-8. We want that heavy nitrogen to help promote that elongation and growth. So we're going to put these pellets on all the trees. Come join me. First up on the docket are all the trees that came out of my cabin cold frame and garage cold frame. And we have some 12-inch pots. We have some 9-inch pots. And we're just going to go ahead and probably put 4 per 9-inch pot, maybe 5 to 6 on the 12-inch pots. And we're going to get these into some nice strategic places where these can get into the soil and provide some great nutrients. garage bench. Now this gets mostly shade still for the early part of the day when the sun is over the garage. Later in the summer this will be more sun longer, but this will stay here for about another week and then we'll get out into more sun. So time to head to the next benches. Okay, that is all the pellets I'm putting on for today. So I think I have 1,000 in this box, and I think I got rid of half of them. I'll have enough for another application in about 4 to 6 weeks, so that'll be June. And then I'll have to order some more for the latter part of the year, and definitely order some more for the fall. So typically in the fall, we want to really fertilize heavy again to set that stage for the following spring, right? We want to get all that energy, all those starches and sugars stored up, and a lot of energy, not to push growth in the fall, but to have it ready for the spring. This is going to be a spring push for most of my trees that are all just in development stage. I want them to push out a lot of growth so I can start making some pruning decisions this year. And in the next couple of years, I think I'll have some trees that are getting closer to that refinement stage. But I'm still a ways off, so a lot of fertilization. So there's the fertilization. We got the update on the gardens back there, so they're coming along nicely. I got 2 out of the 3 beds kind of close to in a position where they'll stay. We still need to put some black protection under there in between them all so we don't get weeds in between. And then we'll get all the dirt in there and some compost, and we'll be ready to plant some vegetables hopefully soon. Being it's May 1st, we're at that cusp of where we should be able to be planting some stuff already. Some people have probably planted lettuces a week or 2 ago, so we'll see where that goes. So fertilization is done for today. So the next part of today's show, if I can get to it, I'm going to have to record it a little bit later, but I think I'll get to it. I've got some trees that I need to get planted, and they're trees from a source that I'm very, very close with, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So if you've seen in previous shows, this garden, which is where our vegetables grow in the summertime, becomes kind of my area to put the trees in the wintertime, with a little bit of bags of leaves here to block some of the northwest winds, and I put them all in here for the winter. Now we've had a lot of critter chop, so I have to figure out a new plan for the fall. Now, I'm not thinking about the fall quite yet because we're barely into spring, trying to get spring to stay for a while before summer. May 1st is just around the corner, and it's still gray and gloomy. We're in the 50s. We got to do some garden fix-up first, though. So I need to kind of get rid of the mulch in the back area there and kind of spread out some of this dirt that our garden used to be on, because some of this dirt will be put into beds, and so we have to kind of spread it to the edges a little bit. So we have to move some of the mulch, and we got to start somewhere. So let's start raking. So I've had a couple of trees over here. It's kind of my off the beaten path place for a tree. It'll get decent morning and early afternoon sun, and then later in the afternoon it'll be more less direct sun. But for the next month or so, this will be fine right here. It's not until we get to the really hot days of summer that I'd worry about this need a little more shade, if any of the leaves are getting burns or that kind of deal. So through May at least, maybe into June. I think this tree is fine right here. So we got a good 6 weeks, I think. So that'll look nice right here. We just have to make sure that the door doesn't open up and hit the branches. Only because I'm not the only one coming through this doorway. It hits right here on the pot right there. The kids will never open it up fast enough to hurt the tree. So that one's got a good place to stay for now. Now that all the rocks and the trees are out of the way. Oh, incidentally, I forgot to mention, this is where the old bench was last year. I put a couple of posts in the ground, and I had bench with trees back there behind the garden. But we're going to push the garden back with our tall cherries back here, cherry tomatoes that is, cherry tomatoes and maybe some beef eaters. We're going to have our tomatoes in the back. They grew up to 5-6 feet tall last year, so we want them in the back. So we're going to have an 8-foot bed back there and 2 8-foot beds. They're going this way. I think they're going this way this year. So we're going to have 3 beds going this way. So I don't have to remove all the dirt. I just have to put the approximate area where the actual wood is going to lay. So we're going to dig out some trenches and kind of organize where these planters are going to go. It's starting to rain a little bit again, so we're going to put the camera away for now. As I dug the first 2 perimeters for the 2 of 3 beds, I'm to right here. We don't have 4 feet where we'll have a clearance by the patio circle and where the garden black lining goes. Our beds might not be able to be 4 feet wide. They might only be able to be 3 feet wide. So, time to go consult with my wife. Well, the rain did stop, and so I decided to dig into some wood construction, and we got the first planter pretty much ready to go. I need some black stuff, you know, some of the stuff that prevents the weeds that we'll put between the planters. So we'll have a couple of custom-made frames that go from left to right, and then we'll put some of the screening in there so the rabbits don't get to our vegetables. So we'll make those, they'll sit just off of there, like about there. So that'll add some nice texture to the garden. And then these are going to be the tomatoes. So we'll have some tomato plants back here, maybe some peas back over there. And then over here we're going to have a 4-foot section. This is only 2.5 wide, plenty for the tomatoes. 4-foot section for, we're going to have some cucumbers that will curl up on a trellis. We'll maybe get some, what else we're going to have? Maybe some beans in here. We're going to have some lettuces up in the front, and that'll be a skinnier box too. So 2.5, 4, 2.5 is what we decided to go with. So there we go. We got the first box relatively good. We're going to put some dirt in here after we lay down some of the black stuff. I got to go buy some of that first, but I think I might make the next box and place it here. Time to cut some more wood. Okay, the 8x4-foot planter box is, first face is done. So we got the back one, 2.5 feet, 4 feet. We'll put another 2.5 feet up in front of that one, and we will have our 3 boxes. We'll make sure that this is 18 inches between so we can walk between, and we'll be in good shape. I think it's time for a break, and I think the dogs agree. Part 2 of today's show is working on some pine trees. So I have a couple year seedlings here that I ordered from a friend of mine who runs a Christmas tree farm near where I live. So My son has worked for this gentleman for the last 5-6 years. It's been a November to December, 15th type job, November to December 20th maybe. Works the tree farm during the summer times. So I'm going to tell you all about that tree farm and what's going on there and why I'm involved with it in an episode or two down the road. But for today, I've got to get these trees planted. So some of these trees are going to be planted in the ground. And some of them we're going to plant right now today, and we're going to do some experimenting in the ground versus the pot. Yes, the ground will get bigger growth faster, but of course if we put them into a pot, a nursery pot, with more bonsai soil in it, we'll have better drainage. I'll be able to control the watering here at my house a lot better than where these are going to go into the ground. Yeah, it'll make sense a little bit later on. So we have some Korean fir, we have some balsam fir, and we have some Fraser fir here. And I'm going to get about 5 of them in a pot each. And then the rest of them, I believe about 20 or so, are going to go in the ground. So 5 of each variety here and 20 in the ground. So it's cool out here. It's raining off and on. Got the trees in these buckets with a little bit of moisture from the rain. And now we're going to bring them inside to the garage. And we're going to get these into some pots. And the experiment will commence. So I'm in the garage. And I've got some wood that's going to be part of the planter project that we didn't quite finish right this weekend. More work to do on that. I'm going to scoot this over, make a little bit more room. We're going to set up our 15 pots here and make a little production line and get these nursery pots filled with some soil. So let's do some moving. Pumice and lava rock are in all of the 15 nursery pots. Now we're going to bring in some trees, look at some roots, and see what we can do to plant these trees. So first up, we're going to get some Korean firs into the ground. Now, a lot of the trees that come from the nurseries, this is from a nursery in Michigan that I order through this tree farmer here near me. And a lot of times with the pines, you'll see a lot of root growth that kind of hugs the taproot, that center part, the trunk. So we have to kind of see if we can make some cuts here and not cut too much of the young roots out, and can they be laid out at a later time. So this one can kind of be laid out right about there, and we have a nice decent radial root right there, but that's not the bottom of the tree, so I'm just going to be careful. This one goes straight down right here. This guy, can we lift it up without damaging the root a little bit? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut off some of the length of these guys. And they may have to curl around the pot this first go around because they're young, coming right from the nursery. Okay, so we cut this first one out. We got some nice roots. We got one right here that kind of goes back around. This one is more radial. We're going to leave everything in for now unless it's really just not what I want. And I think that might be this one that's growing straight up and down, although I can push it down here. Yeah, we don't want this one that's going to grow straight up and down. So we're going to take that one off and we're going to leave the rest on. So the question is can I flare these out a little bit? Okay. So I'm going to get my recycled soil that I have in a different bucket. I'm going to build up a little mound here, and I'm going to see if I can get this, yeah, just like that. And so now we have, let's get a little bit more of a mound, spread out these roots a little bit, there we go, and get these facing down into the pot. And hopefully with all the subsequent root growth in the 2 years to come, we'll be able to do some more root work on these trees a little bit later on. I don't want to put them in the ground with really detrimental roots, or in the pots I should say, but I want to make sure that they have a decent start. So there's tree number 1. Here's the last of the 5 Korean firs, so we'll set that aside. We got 5 out of 15. This bucket will stay in the cool space. We'll keep it, make sure the roots don't dry out, and these will be going into the ground within the week. So my next 2 trees are the balsam and the Fraser. Now I forgot to tag these when I brought them back from my nursery friend, and so that's always a bummer. But consulting with my son and doing a little research, the balsam firs are a little bit thinner and a little bit weaker needles, but that's probably with an older mature tree, whereas the Fraser a little bit sturdier all the way around. And also, he says, on the bottom of the Fraser fir, you should be able to notice a little bit of a white tint to it compared to the other one, so the balsam. So we're going to check out these 2 trees here and see what we can come up with here. So I've got 1 of each. I'm going to look at the undersides. Ooh, pretty hard to tell when they're young. Pretty hard to tell. This one appears to be a little bit more of a white sheen to it and sturdier all the way around. This one seems to be a little bit thinner of a whip, smaller needles. Hard to tell when they're this young. So we're going to go ahead and plant 5 of each trees, and as they grow up, I will consult my tree farm owner and consult with my son some more, and we'll figure out which one is which. So we'll keep them separated for now, and we'll put these first perhaps, and then those second. Yeah, let's dig in. So as I look at some of these trees, what I'm really going to look for now, especially after doing the Korean fir, is looser root structures like these. When you have a real tight structure down below, it's hard to separate these roots. And there's a little bit looser one right there. We might be able to peel that one back a little bit more. And so we're going to grab the trees that'll work the best with what we're doing. We're putting them in a nursery pot. That has a lot of good roots. They're spread out. This one's kind of spread out, but spread out down lower. We have a great big root on this one, but that's probably broken off, and they're all real close and clumped together. So like anything else in life, you got to try a lot of times and hope one of them really takes off. Now this has a real nice, interesting root structure on the bottom, but again, there's some stuff real up high here, 2-3 inches, and this one grows straight up in the air. So we got to let these things grow some different root structures. We're going to have to do some trial and error here. A lot of them have that clump. They must be, this is probably from the plugs they're grown in, and they're all grown in really small, skinny containers, and then all the roots want to go down. A couple breakaway roots. There's some roots up there that could work. Look at that. Could cut this thing right up here. We got some nice roots up top. But one of these is a super curly, gnarly one that went shot back up and worked the way it's round. The next 5 trees have come to a close here. So we got 5 more in the trees. I've got some smaller recycled soil here that I'm putting on the top layer. The thicker mix of recycled bonsai soil is on the bottom, and then the very coarse stuff is on the very bottom, so it will continue to have really good drainage soil for these trees. So we're going to go put these out on the porch. We got 5 more done. Korean and the Frasers, I believe, are done. We're left with the balsam. So again, balsam, a little bit weaker twig structure, a little bit of that white look at the bottom of the twigs. A little bit hard to tell here with these young ones. But I've got 5, 6, 2, 4, 6 here. I'm going to take my last one out of here. I think this one's got too much of a plug look into it. All right, so we have our 5 that we are going to finish off. So here we go. 5 more and we'll get our 15 done. Been making a lot of big messes lately. So there we go. The last ones are done. Let's get these on the porch and wrap it up. Well, there we have it. More information to come on what this is all about. But we've got some Korean firs here that are a couple-year-old seedlings that we got into some bonsai soil, recycled bonsai soil. We've got some Fraser firs and we have some balsam firs. So a grand experiment. I have some in the ground already. I'm going to be putting the rest of these in the ground. We've got a real coarse bonsai size soil, the pumice and lava rock on the bottom third. And then we have some recycled medium lava rock and pumice combination in the middle, and then some smaller size on the top. So the drainage will get really, really good as it goes through the pot, and we won't have the bottom of those roots sitting in any water. But not just dirt. I wanted to go with kind of a bonsai mix. This has a little bit more organic material in it and some leftover dirt and organic particles from the trees they were in before, so that wasn't a completely clean and sifted wash through with the soil. But it'll hold moisture. I'll keep an eye on them. These will be in my yard, in my gardens, and we'll do some experimenting. So a lot of fun. Good gray day to do this because not a lot of hot sun. The roots were not drying out, and now they're all in some really nice moist soil. We'll give them maybe one more little watering to flush some things out, and we'll be good to go. And boy, my hands are getting cold though. It's only about 40-something, 46 degrees out here today. We never warmed up to quite 50, so another cold weekend. But the 60s are coming. The sun is coming back, or at least that's what the forecast is. That's going to do it for another one. Hey, take care of you. Take care of all your bonsai, and we'll catch you very, very soon. I promise.